and welcome to our Money Can't Buy Me Love webinar, which will cover various scams and how fraudsters work to separate victims from their money. The types of scams that we will discuss include romance scams, IRS and Social Security Administration impersonation, and jail bail schemes. We will also provide information on how to avoid these scams and what to do if you have fallen victim to a scam. My name is Joseph Conley. I am the Chief of the Frauds Bureau at the Queens District Attorney's Office, and I will be the moderator for today's program. First, we have a few housekeeping items to go over. The chat function has been disabled for security purposes. Please use the Q&A function on your Zoom screen to ask any questions. We will have a dedicated Q&A portion towards the end of the program. Today's program is being translated into Mandarin for those of you who are joining us via Zoom. Please take a moment to move the mouse over your screen and locate the globe icon at the bottom of the Zoom window. Once you click that icon, you may select Chinese as the language of preference to activate the translation services. On behalf of the Office of the District Attorney, I'd like to thank Elizabeth Bian and Grace Zhu for providing these translation services for us today. And now, before we go further, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the person responsible for making this event possible. One who cares deeply about the Borough of Queens and has spent much of her distinguished career in public service working to improve and protect the lives of Queens residents. DA Katz is the first woman elected to serve as the District Attorney of Queens and has established the first all-woman leadership team with Chief Executive ADA Jennifer Nyberg and Chief of Staff Camille Chin Ki Fet. Since taking office during an unprecedented time in 2020, the District Attorney has led her office through a nationwide pandemic to ensure the safety of more than 2 million people who live and work in this borough. As Queens DA, she brings a steady, community-centered approach to the office, while also helping to implement meaningful changes in the criminal justice system. Please welcome District Attorney Melinda Katz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Connolly, ADA Connolly, for the work that you do on behalf of Queens County. I want to welcome Councilman Peter Koo, always a great advocate for his community and for the people of the City of New York as a City Council member. Deputy Inspector Richard Taylor, NYPD Community Affairs Inspector, and all the staff from my office that are joining today for the webinar on frauds. Fraud Bureau Chief ADA Joe Connolly, of course, Christine Burke, Section Chief of Elder Fraud. I see Colleen Babb, the Executive over Community Partnerships, and I do want to thank Elizabeth Bian for the work that she does year round. I also want to thank Michael Tang of my East Asian Advisory Committee and the Chinese media for bringing the trend of romance scams to our attention. You know, the media that comes right into people's homes, the media that is in the language that folks speak here in the borough of Queens County, they are truly heroes as they get the information right into people's homes and in their hands. And I can't thank the local media outlets enough for the work that they do. And the financial loss exceeds millions and millions of dollars. In 2020, there were 2.2 million reports of fraud, totaling a loss of $3.3 billion nationwide. Romance scams have also increased significantly in the last year. Unfortunately, victims rarely recover lost money. We need members of the community to report these crimes as soon as they can. Evidence such as cell phone records can be extremely time sensitive. And anyone, I want to make this crystal clear, anyone can report a crime. The police will not ask your immigration status. No one in my office will ask your immigration status. And we are here to help you, and we are here to protect you. And today you're going to hear about 2 units in the Frauds Bureau. One is Elder Fraud. The Elder Fraud Unit investigates and prosecutes financial crimes and schemes involving theft of property or savings from senior citizens. The unit has been instrumental in returning deeds to exploited homeowners and securing restitution. Additionally, the unit focuses on prevention through community outreach, with events aimed at educating seniors and the entire community on how to avoid being victimized by scammers. This is one of those outreaches. So I know you're going to hear a lot about them today. I think one in particular we hear about a lot that I want to point out. I know you'll hear about it through Christine Burke as well. One is the bail scam, which is, Grandma, I am being held in Florida or Georgia. I need you to send me money for bail. Please do that and wire the money here. I will tell you, I don't want to be accused of your grandchildren of telling you not to give them money, but I say trust but verify. And you'll hear more about that from Christine. The other scam I want to talk a little bit about for a moment is there are those calling you and saying, I am from Melinda Katz, the Queens District Attorney's Office. You need to send us some money or we are going to prosecute you for X, Y, and Z. There's been a complaint. This is the violation. This is the charge. And this is the amount of money you should send. I promise you, there is no one from my office that will ever call you and say, send us money. It will not happen. It is not going on, and it is a scam. And if you have any question, you can call the office, and anyone in this chat, I know my people will put their numbers in just to verify. The second bureau is the Frauds Bureau, about tax revenue collection on behalf of the city and state, and anyone using financial schemes. It prosecutes a wide variety of these financial claims, but they're also trained to help victims of embezzlement and burglary and organized theft patterns and financial crimes. So I appreciate everyone being here today. This is part of my community partnership division. We reach out to the community. You should know who we are. You should know where we are. And the first time that you see a district attorney should not be when you do something wrong. The first time you see a district attorney should be when we're trying to either keep people out of the criminal justice system or protect you from ever having to need us as a criminal justice system. So I thank everyone for being involved here today. I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, DA Katz. Now I'll be introducing our first co-sponsor for this program, Councilmember Peter Koo. New York City Councilmember Peter Koo currently represents the 20th District, which includes downtown Flushing and parts of Fresh Meadows and Whitestone. He currently serves as chair of the Council's Committee on Parks and Recreation, and previously served as the chair of the Technology Committee, Subcommittee on Landmarks, Public Sittings and Disposition Subcommittee, and Waterfronts. He has affectionately been called the Mayor of Flushing because of his involvement in civics, his accessibility to the public, and for his philanthropic endeavors. A pharmacist and small business owner, he currently lives in Flushing, Queens, with his wife Bernadette of almost 40 years.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, District Attorney Melinda Katz and the staff for hosting this webinar. I also want to thank NYPD Community Affairs for their partnership on this event. I'm Peter Koo, the local council member of Flushing. Romance scams occur when a criminal adopts a fake online identity to gain a victim's affection and trust. The scammer then uses the illusion of a romantic or a close relationship to manipulate and steal more money and love from the victim. The intention is to establish a relationship as soon as possible. They may propose marriage, but that will never happen. Eventually, they will ask for money and disappear. Unfortunately, Asian Americans are often targeted for these types of scams. We also know that many more other types of scams and frauds. So I am glad we are all here today to learn about these scams and how to protect ourselves. Thank you again to District Attorney Melinda Katz and all the staff involved and NYPD. Thank you. So let me say a few words in Mandarin. 大家好，我是纽约市议员顾亚明。感谢我们检察官 Melinda Katz 主办今天的活动，也感谢纽约市NYPD 大力支持今天的活动。最近很多骗局的犯罪分子通过网络用假的身份来获得受害人的爱和信任，之后并利用这个亲密的关系来骗取对方的钱财，等钱骗到手了，他犯罪分子就不见了。亚裔社区有很多这种事情发生，所以希望今天大家参加这个讲座之后知道这个事情，告诉你的朋友要保护自己，要保护你的家人朋友。今天的研讨会很有意义。这个研讨会不单是关于爱情的偏爱，还有其他的骗钱，骗老人家的房子啊，或者有些人买房子没有快点，没有要拿这个银行本票去买房子，就被人家就欺骗了。所以很多事情，请大家好好听，好好问问题。谢谢大家 ，Thank you。
Thank you, Councilmember Ku. Now I'll be introducing another co-sponsor for this program. From the New York City Police Department, Deputy Inspector Richard Taylor. Deputy Inspector Richard Taylor is the commanding officer for the NYPD Community Outreach Division, which falls under the Community Affairs Bureau. The Community Outreach Division focuses on bringing resources to all communities across the 5 boroughs. As the commanding officer, Deputy Inspector Richard Taylor leads by example, constantly going to different neighborhoods to meet with local leaders and organizations, and ensuring that his officers are able to best serve these communities. Deputy Inspector Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief Connolly. Thank you to the DA. On behalf of Chief Madry asked me to join today in partnership. Of course, we extend our deepest and sincerest thanks to you, DA Melinda Katz, for your initiative, for your leadership in hosting this very important Zoom meeting. Of course, Councilman Peter Ku, a great relationship, great time as well. We all come together. I know Chief Madry was just in Queens just a couple months ago, walking with you throughout the streets of Flushing. And that was to bring a sense of security to the community. As Chief Madry always says, it's not just important that the police department keep people safe, but it's also just as important that people feel safe. So that's why I'm happy to join to echo the words that the DA and the council member just said. We will never, in the NYPD, we will never, ever ask anyone to go to any type of establishment and ask for money or a gift card or in any way threaten arrest over the phone in exchange for money. I know we have Police Officer Kwok on the Zoom as well. He does a tremendous job. Thank you, Police Officer Kwok, did a tremendous job with the outreach efforts to the Asian community, not just to Queens, but the entire city, but especially here when we have a community that unfortunately we see members of the community have fallen victim to criminals who unfortunately take advantage of those who are trusting, or those who get a phone call under the disguise of law enforcement, or like we're talking about here, of a love interest. We just wanted to say that from the NYPD and from Chief Madry's office, we will never, ever tolerate any crime against people from our city. We will always stand in unity with every community. To the Asian community, we stand in solidarity. And just like Chief Madry's walked the streets before, he will continue to do so and continue to be there for each and every person in the community. I will stay on the line. I know Police Officer Clark will be on the line as well. I know there'll be a question and answer session. Any way that we could assist, of course, the DA and the council member, that's what we're here for. Thank you so much. I look forward to the program.
Thank you, Deputy Inspector Taylor. Now, with the assistance of Christine Burke, Section Chief of the Queens District Attorney's Elder Fraud Unit, we will start our presentation. Money Can't Buy Me Love, identifying online scams, how to avoid being a victim. And please remember, there is a Q&A function if you have any questions as we proceed through. As District Attorney Katz mentioned, in 2020, we saw a very
Chief Conley,
unfortunate
I'm
year.
so sorry to interrupt. If you
Yeah.
could just go to the display settings right there on that PowerPoint and right up, right up top, just because I
Yes.
see all the slides. Yep. And then just select the swap function.
Is that good?
Do that one more time.
Let's try this one more time. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Mhm.
Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. So we'll go back to our 2020 statistics there. Sorry for the technical difficulties. As the DA indicated, 2020 was a very unfortunate year. We saw 2.2 million reports of fraud across the country. That does not include identity theft or consumer complaints against companies. That is just 2.2 million reports of fraudulent activity. That is scammers trying to take people's money. The result of that was $3.3 billion. That's billion with a B, that was lost to these scammers. And as the DA indicated, that's a significant increase year after year. So one of the unfortunate trends that we're seeing is that every single year, we're seeing more and more people fall victim to these types of scams. Another unfortunate outcome from this is that victims very rarely ever recover their money. It's actually a small percentage of cases where we are able to recover any type of money, and very rarely does a victim ever be made whole, which means even if they do recover money, it's only a small portion of what they've lost. What we've come to learn is that outreach is very important. We must educate the public to stop this type of activity if we're ever able to get ahead of it. So that's why these webinars are extremely important. We need to get the word out and we need your help to do that. So please pass this information along to your friends, family members, and community members. One of the other troubling statistics here for the elderly, which is why we have our section chief, Christine Burke, on the line, is that one of the sad facts is elderly victims tend to lose 2 times more money in these types of scams than people of younger age. So what that means is that our most vulnerable population seems to be losing the most money. So what types of scams and frauds are we going to cover today? Well, unfortunately, there's too many to cover, but we have listed several here that we'll try to go through. What's important to remember is that no matter what type of scam it is, they all fall with a few guiding principles. The first is speed. Scammers do not want you to do any research. Scammers do not want you talking to family and friends. They want to move very quickly to separate you from your money. Because if you have any time to stop and think, you may uncover the fact that this is a scam. So speed is one of the most important things. So if somebody's moving and pressuring you to move money very quickly, that should be the first indicator that something's wrong. I want you to keep that in mind as we go through all of these different types of scams today, because they will all have that as a common element. And that's why District Attorney Katz put it perfectly. Trust, but verify. Before you send money to anybody, do some research. And remember that speed is never your friend. So how do scammers try to contact people? Well, sadly, any way that you make contact with people, somebody has used that as part of a scam. What are those methods? Well, we have telephone scams, Social Security. Please understand that that individual is a scammer. Never send any money in cash. The same goes for companies. If you ever hear of a big name company asking you to send cash in or to pay via gift card, that is a scam. Reputable companies do not ask for payment in those ways. With the rise of email, we see a tremendous amount of phishing attempts. What that is people creating fake emails and trying to get you to click on different links. And we'll go through that more later in the presentation. But those are all malicious codes and malicious ways to get information off of your computer. So please be careful on any links that you click in your email. The United States Postal Service still remains a classic way of scamming people out of their money. This is done through false advertisements, false claims of lottery winnings, false claims for home relief and mortgages and reverse mortgages. So again, anything that you receive just because it came through the mail doesn't mean you should trust it. You should always trust but verify. And then lastly, in person. You have deception burglaries, home improvement fraud, deed fraud, and some found money scams, which Section Chief Burke will be going through later today. First scam that we'll be talking about is romance scams. 2020 saw a staggering amount of money lost to romance scams. Over type of profile on a dating website. They'll have pictures. They will have a story. They will contact their victims. Sometimes the victim will contact them first. But either way, the contact is made and they will start to develop a relationship. And again, remember what I said earlier, speed. The relationship will seem very intense. The scammer will want to make the victim feel very special. They will profess their love for them very quickly, more so than if they ever saw them in person. They will want to try to isolate the victim. They want to make sure that they get all of their attention. So they will contact them all throughout the day, numerous times, day and night, making sure that they're showering them with love and praise and affection. This is all done in a very fast manner. The reason for that, again, is because speed is their friend. They will also try to get the victim off of the dating sites and onto various social media or texting and various communication applications. The reason for that is because they don't want too much information researched. So if they can isolate the victim off of the dating website and onto a messaging platform, then they can have one-on-one communications. It also makes it harder for law enforcement to trace. So the victim should be wary of anybody who's trying to get them immediately off of a dating website by proposing, saying, hey, let's move this to WeChat, or let's move this to WhatsApp, or let's move this to Facebook Messenger. When they met faster and faster, the inevitable always. They will have surgeries that pop up. They'll need to pay off debts. They will ask you to send them gifts. The one thing that's always in common here is the ask. It will always involve money. Some common schemes to be on the lookout for is that the scammer will claim to work at a distant location that's very hard to get to, so you can never go visit them. A lot of times it'll be an oil rig or in the military. There's always some remote location that you can't reach, which is why you can never come see them, but yet they can never come see you. So keep these common things in mind when you're talking to people online if they're trying to develop a relationship with you. Why are they moving so fast? And why is it that their story always seems to be that you can never get to them and they can never get to you? Included in the not meeting in person, they will also, for some reason, never be able to meet you on a video chat platform. Well, there's a reason for that. The images that they're sending you are usually not of them, almost certainly not of them. they've probably stolen them from somewhere else on the internet, from either a website or some other type of social media platform. If you suspect that somebody's using stock or stolen photographs, you should use a type of reverse image search. That can be easily found on Google or a number of other websites. They will tell you if the image of the person is from a standard website. So that is one way, and only one way, to try to verify. It is certainly not the only way, but it is at least an initial indicator that you should be on the lookout for. Also, the scammer will want to learn a lot about you. They will provide some details about themselves, but they will not be looking to provide too much detail. The reason for that is their story is only so backstopped. They haven't lived that life that they're telling you about. That's a fabrication, it's a lie. So they can only provide so many details, but they will seem very, very interested in you. They will want to know all about you, all about your family, all about your interests, your likes, your dislikes. They will seem to be giving you all of their attention. Those are warning signs. If somebody's only asking information about you and unwilling to share about themselves, it's again something to be concerned about. We've seen an influx of cryptocurrency scams lately, and unfortunately, these are intersecting with romance scams recently. For the rise in cryptocurrency that we've been seeing from the general population as a way to conduct commerce and also as an investment, also fraudsters are looking to adapt into this. Fraudsters always seem to be one step ahead of any technology. So it's important to remember that if you're investing in some type of cryptocurrency, only purchase from reputable exchanges and always do your research, because we will see that these romance scams are in fact merging. What that means is maybe they don't ask you for cash, but they will ask for money. They'll ask for money by saying, hey, I've got a great investment. I've been making a killing on my returns lately. You should too. That doesn't seem like an overt ask. It doesn't seem like send me money for a plane ticket or I need money to get out of jail or to pay for a surgery, but it's still an ask for money. So what they will say is, here's a website that I use, you should use it. And what we're finding is that victims are going to these websites thinking that they're reputable companies because they did not do any independent research. They're investing money in these websites. Usually it's small amounts to begin with. The scammer and the website will then provide some purported returns. Those returns will look very generous, more so than could ever be achieved anywhere else in the market. Then comes the ask for more money. Like, hey, you've been making a 30% return. Why not add a little bit more money? And then more money, and then more money. But there's no way to pull your money out because it's gone. It was not put into a reputable place to invest. So you'll never see that money again. So it's very, very important to make sure that you're doing independent research. If you're investing in cryptocurrency, do not follow the advice that you're getting online. Do your own independent research. Also, never give anyone access to your private keys, seed phrase, or wallet. If you do, your cryptocurrency will be stolen and there will be no way to recover it. That's one of the benefits of cryptocurrency, is that it's to some degree hard to trace, but easily to transfer. So if you've given somebody access to your money, there will be no way to recover it. I'm now going to turn it over to Section Chief Christine Burke to talk about some additional scams. Christine?
Thanks, Chief Conley, and thank you to DA Katz for providing us with another opportunity to get the word out to our community. Unfortunately, these scams are happening on a daily basis throughout the city of New York and in Queens County, and so it is my hope, as ADA Conley indicated before, that each of you take some of the information you learned today home with you and share it with those that may not be present for this webinar today, because as the DA said, it would be much better for us to have contact with you on the front end in the prevention mode, rather than sitting across my desk as a victim of one of these scams. So phone scams are prevalent, as you have heard. Many types of scams are perpetrated over the phone. Family and trouble scams, otherwise known as grandparent jail bail scams, I will talk to you in a minute about, because they do prey on the heartstrings of loved ones. Let's talk about government imposter scams to begin with. IRS and the Social Security Administration. These entities, as well as any other governmental agencies, will never contact you folks. I just realized I had to slow down for Elizabeth. These entities, agencies, governmental programs will never ask for cash over the phone. They will not threaten you with an arrest over the telephone. Generally speaking, law enforcement does not advise targets or people that are about to be arrested over the telephone that we are coming. So there are ways to verify information, as DA Katz said. So if you do receive a telephone call from the IRS or from the Social Security Administration regarding your personal identifying information being compromised, or perhaps you owing money to the IRS, there are ways to verify separate and apart from the phone call you are receiving. Oftentimes, if you ask a scammer for a phone number that you can call back, or for their name, or to speak to a supervisor, the scammer will hang up. They will get the impression that perhaps you're on to them, and they will just move on to the next phone number to find another potential victim. We all, unfortunately, have received the car warranty phone scams, wherein the caller, once again, is preying on our concern for safety in this case, right? So they tell us our car warranties are expiring or haven't expired, which we may not have any information about, but we are inclined to react to that and, oh, quick, we better obtain a warranty. So we all know what kind of vehicle we have. If we have car loans, we know what entities to reach out to. If we do, in fact, need a warranty or to verify information about a warranty, it is not the person on the phone, on that unsolicited phone call, for us to rely upon for any information. So, a way to avoid becoming a victim of a phone scam is to be mindful of the fact that you have not asked for this call. You have not asked for warranty information. You have not asked for legal advice. And so you can take the information down, but then you want to verify it with the legitimate agency at a different number than the caller has provided. A scam that I really would like to spend a little more time on than others is the grandparent jail bail scam. It is near and dear to my heart because there are currently more than 300 open complaints pending in New York City of older adults who have fallen victim to this scam. This has nothing to do with the older adult not being smart. It has everything to do with the caller being a scammer, being a thief who is preying on the vulnerability of an older adult. And by way of an example, how this scam happens is the phone rings, an older adult picks up the phone, and the first thing they hear is, "Grandma, is that you?" The connection is almost always bad. The person who has received the call says, "Henry, is that you?" trying to figure out which grandchild might be on the other end of the line. Now the scammer on the phone knows that the woman who answered the phone has a grandson named Henry. The caller then says, "I've been in an accident, Grandma. You're right, it doesn't sound like me. I've broken my nose, I've fractured my cheekbone, and I'm in jail. I'm going to put you on the phone with my attorney or the bail bondsman. Grandma, I need your help. I need it fast. I need your money. Please don't tell anyone." Another voice gets on the phone and says, "I am in fact Henry's attorney, and here's what we need. We need $10,000 cash. Do you have that in your house? Do you need to go to the bank? We will send a courier to you to take that money for you so we can get Henry out of jail." Very often, older adults have money at home. And so the transfer of the currency, the cash, happens pretty quickly. The caller will say, "I have a courier in the neighborhood. They will come to your house. Please put the money in an envelope, and I will call you back when the courier arrives." When the courier arrives at the house, the caller does call the older adult back and says, "Please hand the money to my employee, and we'll get Henry out of jail." The exchange happens. Sometimes a receipt is given, and within a short amount of time, the caller usually calls the grandparent again, says, "Thank you for the money. However, there's been an update in the situation. The judge has raised the bail because Henry was in fact in a car accident. He crashed into a pregnant woman who has lost the baby since I spoke to you last. Therefore, we need another $10,000. We need another $15,000. And it can go on and on and on. It usually is dramatic in what the caller is telling the older adult, and the older adult wants nothing more than to help their grandchild. There are people that have lost more than $100,000. One victim has lost $200,000 over a period of 3 weeks. And again, as was mentioned earlier, there's urgency to get the grandchild out. There is secrecy. The grandchild usually says, please don't tell anyone. I'll get you the money as soon as I get out of jail. And there's an exchange of cash, which is very difficult to prove who the ultimate receiver of that cash is. What is important to know is this is not the way we bail people out of jail in the United States. At no time will you be asked to, by a bail bondsman or by a defense attorney, to provide cash in an envelope to a person you've never met before. And so that is one way to avoid becoming a victim of this scam. And if in fact you have already been a victim of this scam, as I started out, this has nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with the thieves behind this organized crime. I do believe these are organizations of people. There are levels of involvement in this, and it goes from the courier all the way up to the top to the people that are obtaining our personal information. Next slide, please. In addition to the grandparent scam happening over the phone, we have examples of email scams as well. So 45% of emails that we receive are spam, that is mass mailings that may in fact have the potential to be a scam. 14.5 billion emails go about the World Wide Web on a daily basis, and $3.5 billion are lost annually to responding to or clicking on these fraudulent scams. These scams appear to be coming from a person that you may know or an entity you might be familiar with. So on the screen, you may see that there is an example of a fraudulent email from Amazon in which the email is saying, please verify your account information by clicking here. Another email that you can see on the screen is from the IRS, or at least it appears to be from the IRS. It is not too tough to find the logo of an entity and put it on a document, put it on an email, and send it out to hundreds or thousands of people. And so how do we know if these emails that we're receiving are from the person or the entity that we think we're receiving it from? One way to find out is if you click on the top of the sender information where it has, say, the IRS or it has Amazon. If you don't click on the link, but you highlight the sender information, you will see the email address attached to Amazon. And if it is in fact a fake email, if it is someone who has hacked Amazon's contact list or Amazon's database, that email will show an email address other than a legitimate Amazon email address. Another thing you can do, that you can go into your browser, you can Google Amazon scams, and in all likelihood, you will see what you have received here, you'll find indicated as being reported as a common scam. There is an example down below of an IRS email advising you or your company that a complaint has been issued against you. Again, their fear tactics are being used to get you to respond, to get you to click on the link. Once again, governmental entities are not likely to ever advise a person that they are about to file a criminal complaint against you. That's not how the government does business. If the IRS wants to reach you, they will do so by way of a certified letter, a guarantee that they've actually received you. They're not going to tell you you need to pay a debt you owe to this governmental agency or else a criminal complaint will issue. Another thing to be mindful of is in reading the details of these emails that are in fact scam emails. Oftentimes the punctuation is incorrect. There are capital letters in the middle of a sentence. There are misspellings in the email. And those are some things to be mindful of when you're actually reading the email. Technical support emails are very common ways of scammers gaining remote access to our computers. We get this email from whatever entity we may have had software protection from before, antivirus software, that says, alert, your antivirus software has expired and you are in danger of becoming a victim to some fraud. Click on this link and we will do a free review of your computer to see if you are in fact, if your computer has been compromised. By clicking on that link, you are giving the scammer behind that email sometimes immediate access to your computer. And upon them entering your computer remotely, they can obtain any and all information that is on your computer. So if you get one of these emails, rather than reacting quickly by clicking on that link, think about or contact someone in your family who may be more familiar with the computer system and the software on it than you are, and say, do you know if we have this protection? And if not, how do we go about getting it? This unsolicited advice, once again, coming by way of an email, is cause for concern perhaps, or at least a red flag before you act. Next slide, please. So lotteries, sweepstakes, and inheritance scams, we see those as well. Of course, with the lottery or the sweepstakes scam, who wouldn't want to be the first prize winner of $1 million prize? It is once again cause to pause and say, did I ever enter this lottery or sweepstakes? If in fact I want to pursue it and see if I haven't in fact won, what are they telling me to do? If they are telling you that you must make a payment toward the taxes or fees associated with the winning, the red flag should go up immediately, because that is not how you typically win a lottery or sweepstakes. If you play lotto, if you play Powerball, and you are a winner, they are not asking you for cash up front before they give you their winnings. Don't worry, the tax department and the IRS, they will get their share. It is not by way of some stranger that you're turning over cash to or wiring money to. Another way to be wary of these types of winnings or perhaps an inheritance is that the scammer is asking you to give them information about your bank. Let me make it easy for you. You don't have to travel to another state to claim your prize. Just provide me with the routing number and account number of your bank account, and we will deposit that money right into your account. Once again, that sounds terrific. And so I would suggest that if it sounds too good to be true, it is likely too good to be true. Never give your bank information to people you don't know. And sometimes we even have to be careful about giving it to people we do know. Let's talk a few minutes about homeowner scams. They commonly are one of these in-person scams. And what do I mean by that? Well, you get a knock on the door. Hi, I'm doing work in the neighborhood and I see you need a new roof. You might not even know that you need a new roof, but this person is now telling you, you need a new roof. And I happen to be here. I happen to have extra materials, and I can give you a great price if you pay me cash. It may sound good. You may actually want to take this stranger up on the offer, but before you do so, before you sign any documents, get their information, get their contact info, their addresses, do a check with the Department of Consumer Affairs. Are they a legitimate roofing company? Do they have workers' compensation protection? If it is something that you want to follow up on, you can do so, but you need to pause. As the DA said at the outset of this webinar, pause and verify before you act. Don't act and then verify. It's likely you're never going to get it back. Another scam with regard to homeowners is legal advice. So we may want to access some equity in our property because the house values have gone up. And lo and behold, here's a free advertisement, free legal advice. We can help you with foreclosure. We can help you obtain a loan. We can help you do XYZ. It is an unsolicited offer. If you choose to talk to these folks, that's your prerogative. I would suggest that before taking legal advice from a stranger who just happens upon you at your home, or in your neighborhood, consult with an attorney of your own choosing. So whether that be someone in your family or a friend, or the Queens County Bar Association has free legal services, you can get a consultation there for a reduced amount of money. And it just gives you some time to think about whether or not you really want to or need to get involved in this type of a situation. Deed fraud is prevalent in Queens County and throughout New York City. It is prevalent because the housing market, the values of properties have increased dramatically over the last few years. And scammers are driving the streets of the city looking for properties that might be vacant, might be in need of repair, and they knock on your door. We can help you fix up your house. We can help you with that avoid foreclosure. Let me bring some documents over to you. I promise we can save your home for you. And next thing you know, countless people have signed over the deeds to their home without ever knowing it. And they learn by way of a mail received at the house in the name of another person. The New York City Department of Finance has a deed link on their website. If you are a homeowner, you can put in your information, and the Department of Finance will notify you anytime and every time a document is filed with regard to your property. And so if someone targets you in your home to steal the deed out from under you, then you will get a notification of that from the Department of Finance. So I highly recommend looking into that and putting yourself on notice to protect yourself a little bit, whether it's from a fraudulent deed transfer or maybe someone placing a lien on your property. Next slide, please. So we also have blackmail and social media scams. This usually arises as a result of photographs or details about our personal lives that we've posted somewhere on social media. The next step is the person threatens to post them, share them, unless you give them money. And once again, while everything I just said about this raises a red flag about blackmail and fear and invoking if I pay you, you'll go away. Not likely will they go away, just like in the Grandparent scam, they will continue to try to get money from their victims. So they will demand payments in the form of a wire transfer or a gift card or even cryptocurrency. What can we do to avoid this type of scam? Be careful about sharing your personal details about yourself, your personal information, date of birth, social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, and as well as your family names and children and relatives and so on and so forth. Remember that the internet is forever. Once you put something on social media, while you might think you've deleted it and no one can ever see it, that is not the case. It can be found. So how do we avoid being a victim? It is possible. It is a couple of rules of thumb. Is never send money in the mail or by wire in the form of gift cards to a person you've not met. As I've said earlier, the governmental agencies, legitimate businesses are not going to ask you to send money this way. If you have a question about it, even if they have instilled some fear in you, ask someone that you can trust. Forget about being embarrassed or concerned that they might question your integrity. It is better to be safe than sorry. Ask someone that you trust. It doesn't have to be your children if you're an older person, because kids can be difficult in that area, but you can find someone that you trust, whether it be a friend, someone from your community, perhaps someone from your congregation if you belong to a house of faith. Never give a stranger access to your bank account information. While it might seem easy to say, here is my account, you can send my refund to this account, it is not advisable. Once the money leaves an account, it is very hard for it to be returned, especially when we're talking about cash. It's like finding a bag of cash on the ground. Once you've lost it, it is very difficult to prove down the road that the money left on the street or left on a bench actually belonged to you. Never sign a document before you've had an appropriate amount of time to read it and go through it. And I would even say go through it with someone else. Legal documents are complicated. They are wordy. Oftentimes the language doesn't make sense, whether you're a lawyer or not. And so if this is a legitimate legal document you've been being asked to sign, ask for a copy of it, bring it home to process, and perhaps to run it by a trusted person in your family. Again, avoid unsolicited offers, even if they sound great. So free legal advice on a flyer in the mail seems like a great idea. I would suggest to you that there are ways of getting legal advice without paying thousands of dollars, but by way of a safe place. Don't click on attachments or emails or links in an email unless you can verify before clicking on it that it is in fact legitimate. I'll share with you a very real and personal example with regard to those emails recently. Is my email was hacked unbeknownst to me. The hacker created an email that was almost identical to my legitimate one. They reached all of my contacts. And when people looked up at the sender information and they clicked, they highlighted the address, it appeared to be the same email. The only difference was instead of at verizon.net, it was at outlook.com. People didn't notice that. And then the next question was, do you have an Amazon account? Can you help me out? And then if a person said yes to that, thinking they were helping me, the next thing that happened was, can you send me a few gift cards? I need to purchase some. I have a sick relative. And 2 people that I know responded to those emails, and they did in fact send gift cards. They called me the next day to tell me that they did that, and it was too late because they didn't actually send them to me. They sent them to the scammer. So this is real. This happens on a daily basis, and that's why we need to be mindful of it before we start clicking on links or providing information or money to individuals. Pick up the phone, the good old-fashioned way of communicating. Call someone, ask them if they're okay. Next slide. So what happens if you are a victim? Well, you can and should report this to the local police precinct. You can and should also report it to us. You can contact the Consumer Frauds Hotline at 718-286-6673. If you believe you're a victim of a crime and you're not sure and perhaps you're leery about going to the police department, you can contact us, but they are law enforcement as we are. They investigate crimes as well. And so they are oftentimes your first place to go. If you have been a victim of a financial crime, it is likely that your credit card companies or your financial institutions that you do business with are going to want a police report before they take your fraud complaint. If you are over the age of 60 and you believe you are a victim of a crime, you can contact the Elder Fraud Unit at the Queens DA's office at 718-286-6578. In addition to those local entities contacting them, we strongly urge everyone who is a victim of an internet crime to contact the FBI at www.ic3.gov. The FBI is a national law enforcement agency. They are tracking trends in scams and frauds throughout this country, and they work with local law enforcement. And so they may be aware of a national fraud or scheme going on that we in Queens County might not be aware of. By reporting it to them, you are putting them on notice that the scheme is now moved to another area of the country. The Federal Trade Commission Consumer Frauds website is an awesome place to go to be on top of the trends of scams and frauds, as well as what you can do to protect yourself. And they can be reached at reportfraud.ftc.gov or 888-382-1222. They also have an email subscription that you can email. You can give them your email and they will send you an e-newsletter advising you of the current trends and things that consumers can do to avoid being a victim. Next slide, please.
Actually, Chris, I think that's the end of the presentation.
Okay, one other thing I will say that to avoid being a victim of identity theft, the 3 major credit reporting agencies have a federal obligation to provide every consumer with one free credit report a year. So TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, if you reach out to one of those once a year, perhaps every 4 months, you can check your credit report and you can make sure that any credit cards or loans that are in your name actually belong to you. And if there are things on there that you are not aware of, that is an opportunity to stop identity theft in its tracks. Thank you all for being here today. And if you need us, please call us at the numbers provided on the screen.
Thanks, Chris. Before we go into the question and answer portion, I'm going to turn it over to Officer Kwok from the Community Affairs Bureau for anything he wants to add.
Yes, thank you very much again for taking the time. Thank you, Bureau Chief Conley and Section Chief Burke for this extremely thorough presentations on covering the phone scams. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Police Officer Kwok. I am the Asian liaison for the NYPD Community Affairs Bureau. I would like to add to what was said that if you're ever concerned about a call or an email that you've received, please don't hesitate to reach out to the police to confirm whether this may be a scam. It is important to understand that, as was said multiple times earlier, the NYPD will never question your immigration status when you are reporting a crime. In addition, the 911 dispatch now has multiple languages available to callers, so do not be fearful of calling 911 due to a limitation of English. As Queens DA Melinda Katz said earlier, the best way to protect people from these scams is to prevent it from happening in the first place. Well, what happens if you have already fallen victim to a scam? For starters, you can reach out to the police to file a report. You can call 911 to have police officers come to your home to file a report. And after you have filed your report, detectives may reach out to you to further investigate your case. It is very important to report these crimes regardless of success, because we would also like to know when people become victims of scams so that we can increase our outreach of affected communities to prevent further victims. In closing, I'd like to thank the Queens DA's office and Councilman Peter Koo for setting this webinar up to further inform the community on how to protect yourself from these common scams. And also on behalf of Chief Madry and the NYPD, we would like to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Officer. We did have two questions. The first is there a certain demographic of individuals being targeted by this scam? I believe it came in during the romance scam portion, and they were asking if it was specifically more geared towards men or women. So the research indicates that men are falling for this scam more than women, but it's not a large percentage difference. And it's important to keep in mind that that's based upon people who have reported being a victim. We do know, even though we indicated that it was a 50% increase and it was, $300 million lost, that's based upon what's reported. A large number of people who fall victim to romance scams for fear of feeling shamed by their family and friends never report being a victim. So that's why it's important to talk to people about these types of scams and to get this information out there and to let people know that this is very pervasive on the internet. And really, as the officer just indicated, without education, we're never going to get ahead of this. So we really need everyone's help on this. And don't feel like just because I'm a woman or just because I'm a man, I'm not going to be targeted by these types of scammers. They're targeting everyone. So whether you're falling for it based upon a certain demographic does not matter, because they're targeting everyone. The next question, Chris, I'm actually going to throw to you because I know you have some experience with this. Can DAs from different districts coordinate on victims' cases from similar scams when the victims live in different districts? And I know you have a lot of experience, unfortunately, with the grandparent jail bail scam. So you want to talk about how we coordinate?
Sure, Joe, thank you. Luckily, there are opportunities for district attorneys throughout the state and throughout the country to connect by way of different organizations. And so we definitely do coordinate in when we are aware of a scheme that is being perpetrated outside of our own county. So for instance, an investigation into a grandparent jail bail scam, they are not just targeting people in Queens County, which are the cases that would come to me, but there are victims in Manhattan. And by working with law enforcement, NYPD is a citywide unit they have information from every county, every borough. And so we do work with our partners in law enforcement to investigate and prosecute these cases. And then by way of example of outside of the city, while I only have jurisdiction to prosecute cases that happen in Queens County, I know my colleagues in the elder fraud units throughout the surrounding area as well as throughout the state. So we do reach out to one another and we do work together to bring the strongest prosecution of these individuals that are perpetrating these crimes.
Thanks, Chris. So we have another question here. Can Queens DA help to investigate the scam if it occurred in another state? So the short answer is yes, we do have some jurisdictional limits based upon what Christine Burke, the section chief, just indicated. But either way, we'd be happy to talk to you and we can certainly point you in the right direction, even if we do not have jurisdiction. So the important point, which Section Chief Burke pointed out earlier, was contact us. Officer Kwok said the same thing. Contact the NYPD, contact our office, contact the FBI. There are a lot of resources that are available. So contact somebody, and even if we can't be the ones who help you, we will get you help. And does the local police take the case for internet fraud? Certainly, Officer Kwok, I don't want to step on your toes, but
No, by all means. So yes, we do take the reports for crime, no matter what the location, no matter what the origin of it is. Could be a phone call, because we don't know necessarily the location. Most of our reports are going to be based on where you're located. So if you're at home and you fall victim to one of these scams, when we take the report, they're going to take it based off of where you were when the occurrence of the crime is happening. So yes, absolutely, local precincts will take your call and file the report.
Great, thanks. And it looks like we have one last question. I reported my case to the FBI over a month ago, but I've not heard back. Is that expected? Unfortunately, 2.2 million scams, and that doesn't include identity theft or consumer complaints. That's a lot of volume. It's an unfortunate fact. It's an unfortunate statistic. I would urge you to follow up. Contact the FBI. If it's something that happened in Queens, definitely contact the NYPD in our office, and we will definitely help you out. But you need to be persistent and keep calling, keep emailing, make sure that the FBI knows that you're out there. But again, if it happened in our jurisdiction, if it happened anywhere in the city, the NYPD has citywide jurisdiction. Queens County is our jurisdiction is limited to Queens, but we do coordinate with our other district attorneys' offices throughout the city. So we can be a resource for you if you contact us. Another question just came in. Is it possible to get the money back after a romance scam? Is there any successful cases? There are some limited successful cases on getting some money back. Those are extremely limited. In most scenarios, that money is never returned. Most of these scams take place from fraudsters that are operating overseas. So the money is immediately transferred out of the country. Even for the fraudsters that are operating in the United States, the money is spent very, very quickly. These are not people with reputable day jobs. They're living off of these scams. So once you send them that $1,000 gift card, they're spending it immediately. The whole scam is structured in such a way that you can never get your money back. They don't invest this money. They don't buy things like houses and stuff, assets that we can attach and seize. They're living a lavish lifestyle off of these scams. So that's why it's very important not to be scammed in the first place. And that's why we're doing this community outreach and trying to educate people. Can
I add something there, if you don't mind, Joseph?
Please.
You know, and you know, even though you're hearing that you know, the success rate of this is low or anything like that, it is still really important that you report these, because at the end of the day, we do take the time to compile you know, these cases happening, and by knowing the numbers and where we're seeing certain hotspots, we take time to try to, you know, further our outreach there. Myself, I've been to numerous communities, as was mentioned by the Deputy Inspector Ritchie, as well as Bureau Chief Conley. we do cover the entire city. So myself, I go to various parts of the city to make sure that there are still outreach going to different places. If you don't report these, we're not aware that they're happening. And sometimes there are communities that are not receiving the outreach that they should be to make them be aware of these scams and to protect them from it as well. So it's really important that you continue to report these regardless of whether or not you have a success with that, because it helps us prevent more victims from happening.
I'd just like to chime in there as well, if I could. At the local level in New York State, there is a Office of Victim Services Restitution Fund. The criteria or the requirements to gain restitution through those funds are specific, but there is still an opportunity to obtain restitution. More the reason, as was stated, to report this. And furthermore, the FBI and national law enforcement do have restitution funds as well. So as was stated, if you report it, and this is a national investigation, and they do a takedown at some point and make arrests and do obtain money, there is a chance that you could get restitution. But, like they say with Lotto, you got to be in it to win it. So if you are a victim of a crime, you need to report it. Even if you think it might be hopeless that you're going to get back what you need, it's worth the effort. Sometimes these applications are lengthy, but it is important for a number of reasons for you to take the time to report that you've been a victim of a crime.
Thanks, Chris. A couple of questions came in asking specifics. So again, we're not going to talk about specifics investigations on this webinar, but the general number for the Frauds Bureau is 718-286-6673. I put that into the chat, and I've also answered a couple of people. So if you asked a question and you don't hear it called out here, please check your chat. I probably responded to you directly because we can't talk about specific investigations. We have another question. When the victim reports the scam, the local precinct needs the evidence. Sometimes the evidence is limited. Is there any way that we can make this easier? Yes, preserve everything. So if you have chat logs, emails, anything kind of written correspondence, don't delete it, keep it. If you suspect that you've been the victim of a scam, then definitely gather all that evidence up. We're going to need bank records. We're going to need all those chat logs. We're going to need phone numbers or records from your phone company showing when you spoke to this individual, any kind of Facebook information or WhatsApp. So definitely make sure you keep all that. Keep screenshots of what this person looked like. The more information you can gather, the easier it'll make law enforcement's job. So Officer Kwok, I'll flip this next one to you. Can we report to the NYPD if we suspect the criminals are located in New York State?
Yeah, so we at the NYPD level, when we take a report, typically we'll do an investigation to try to determine where these people are. It's important to note that suspects, if you suspect that there's someone, whether they're in the New York State or anything like that, for us, we don't automatically determine that they're a suspect without more ability, but you're still free to provide that information to your detectives when they call you to get further information. So the part of the answer is yes, we are able to investigate that, but we won't be able to make them a suspect just because you believe that they're a suspect. We have to do a little more investigation to make that determination as to whether or not this person is suspect. But we definitely do. We'll consider that when you report that to your detective.
Great, thank you. Are you able to help someone outside of New York State? Yes, we need jurisdiction. So we need either the bad actor to be living in Queens or the victim to be living in Queens or some type of criminal conduct to have occurred in Queens for the Queens DA's office to handle it. Same with any of our other jurisdictions in the city, such as Manhattan or Brooklyn or Bronx or Staten Island. They'll need some kind of jurisdictional nexus. But if the acts all occurred outside of the city or the state of New York, then again, you can contact the FTC or the FBI and they might be able to help you. But if anything occurred in Queens, certainly feel free to reach out to us or the NYPD. The next question. Okay, so for the next question is just talking about reporting between the FBI and Queens and the NYPD. I would encourage you to reach out to the agencies and let them know. Certainly we do coordinate
quite often with the NYPD. We work with them all day long. So we do have constant communication with them. And we will certainly coordinate our efforts with them. As far as the FBI goes, we do actually have liaisons that we talk to quite often. So we will definitely be reaching out and coordinating with all of our other agencies. I think that is the end of the questions. Okay, we have one last question, but I will answer that privately. So if there's no other questions, I think that ends the webinar. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.